Good evening, everyone. Allowing a little bit of time for some folks to continue to log in. But welcome to our Lute Look here for student involvement. Tonight, I've got a lovely panel of current Lutes who are all absolutely fantastic. And we're super excited to share their PLU story with all of you who are joining us tonight. Please keep in mind that this is a webinar, so unfortunately they won't be able to hear you audibly ask questions, but we do have our chat feature and our Q&A available. Feel free to chat questions in there and I'll be able to ask them their questions as our evening goes along. This will be about an hour, so feel free to grab popcorn, get up and do whatever restroom breaks you need to do during this. But this will also be on YouTube, so if you're worried you missed something, don't worry, we'll have it all recorded and you'll be able to pull it up at a later date. In the meantime, I'm Chuck. I'm the visit coordinator. If you've taken a tour here at PLU, there's a really good chance you saw me sitting behind the desk, or if you attended an event, I was the tall one walking around, help direct people. If not, that's super chill too. Either way, I'm gonna go ahead and hand it over to our student volunteers tonight, who are all absolutely lovely. We'll go one by one as they introduce themselves, let you know their name, what year they are here at PLU, what they're studying, where they're from, and a little bit of how involved they are at the university. So without further ado, I'm just gonna start with the person whose image is next to mine on my laptop. So Ellie, if you'd like to kick things off, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, sure, I'd be happy to. My name is Ellie. I use she, her pronouns. If you forget that, it's in my little description. I'm a fifth year student at PLU, so I am taking advantage of the plus year that they offered and finishing up my studies, where I'm studying global studies and Hispanic studies. I have a dual concentration in development and social justice, as well as international relations, and minors in anthropology, Native American and Indigenous studies, Peace Corps prep, and dance. I am involved in our Residence Hall Association. I am our director for leadership and civic engagement. I'm also involved in our International Honors Program, Gold Rush Acapella. I'm an outdoor rec trip leader. I work in admissions as one of the student coordinators, and I'm just kind of involved in all sorts of places. Yeah, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Allison.
All right, hello, I'm Allison. I use any pronouns, she, her works, they, them works, whatever. I am also a fifth year taking advantage of the plus year. I'm studying environmental studies, geosciences, and religion with a minor in math. I'm originally from Issaquah, Washington, so not that far away, like 45 minutes. I am involved in athletics here at PLU. I'm a captain on the women's rowing team, as well as a executive board member for the Student Athlete Advisory Committee. So we put on events for athletes, we talk to athletics admin, that kind of thing. I'm also involved in theater, some here on campus, mostly on the set building side. My job on campus is helping build sets, and I also help design for some of the student shows. And I am also a leader in the queer student group on campus. It's called PRISM. It's a pretty small club, but we do some cool events and stuff. I will pass it over to Trevor.
Hi everyone, my name is Trevor. I use he, him pronouns. I'm also a plus year student studying a bachelor's in music education with a focus in secondary choral music. Originally from Walla Walla, Washington. In the past, I've been an RA here on campus. I've also been a tour guide, and I'm also one of the tour guide student coordinators along here with Ellie. I also am involved with Choir of the West, PLU Opera and Theater and Dance. I'm kind of on the more music directing side of things now for theater. I've been members of the Long Range Planning Committee. I also work in the music office in the music library, as well as various clubs and orgs across campus previously with the Collegiate Washington Music Educators Association. And I also student conduct our tenor-based ensemble and our handbell ensemble. And I will popcorn it to Erin.
Hi there, I'm Erin. I use she, they pronouns. I am also a fifth year student, taking advantage of the plus year, buy 4, get 1 free, thanks COVID. I'm a psychology major with minors in kinesiology, criminal justice, religion, and Peace Corps prep. I am from Boise, Idaho, and I'm involved in a plethora of things on campus. Probably the largest hat that I wear is I'm director of outdoor rec. I'm involved in other various clubs, some intramural sports, like women's ultimate frisbee, other clubs on campus like bio club, chem club. Yeah, I've worked at a couple of various on-campus jobs like campus concierge, when we had one, nursing school, and campus safety. Yeah, I will popcorn it to Emma.
Hi y'all. I'm Emma. I use she, her pronouns. I am a second year. I think I'm the only one up here. I am a history major with minors in kinesiology and critical race studies. I'm from Sumner, so about 5 minutes from campus. I am the ASPLU finance director, which is our Associated Students of Pacific Lutheran University. I work for the sports info office, so I'm at every home sporting event, running the scoreboard or calling out your names. I'm everywhere on campus all the time. I am a former member of Plutonics, another a cappella group on campus. I help out with anything and everything. I think I'm the last one.
You were. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So yeah, as you can see, we have some super involved Lutes here. Super stoked for that. So yeah, moving forward, y'all are involved in a lot of things. So let's go ahead and start with, how do you balance, all your extra co-curricular activities and school and social life and finding time to eat? Because y'all are heckin' involved. Please keep in mind, not everybody has to answer the question if you feel other people sum it up really well, but we'll go around popcorn again. As you feel called to answer, please just let us know, how do you do all the amazing things that each and every one of you get to do here on campus?
Yeah, I can go first. Most of my commitments are related to my major or my minors. Working within the athletic department, I am a kinesiology minor for coaching, so it kind of balances the two out. And then all of my schedules usually end by 3:30 each day. That way I have time in the afternoon. The only time it doesn't end is on Tuesdays when I'm working for ASPLU. So that ends around like 8:30. So really, I just kind of make sure that my schedule can balance out before I take on any of the extracurriculars. And then if I can't handle something, I just let my advisor or whoever know that I need a break, and I take time for my mental health.
Yeah, kind of going off of that, I use GCal Google Calendar religiously. Like, I don't schedule an event without putting it into my GCal. I, with outdoor rec, kind of have a job all the time. We do trips on the weekends and we have weekly meetings. So I'm kind of doing stuff all the time. Anytime I have something I have to do, I put it in my GCal. So I know what I'm doing, when I'm doing it, and for how long I'm doing it. That's really kind of helped guide my life and help me with time management, which kind of is the easiest way to help balance everything. It's just getting really good at time management.
For me, definitely having a good schedule, GCal. I know where my priorities are too. Like, I'll prioritize my class and then commitments to the rowing team and then moving from there. And that's helpful because sometimes I can't do everything and I have to say, I have another thing that day, I can't do it. And just kind of knowing ahead of time, like what I'm prioritizing when, is really helpful. And for me, some of my stuff, like, it's a break from other things I do. Like, if I've been sitting there working on an essay for one of my classes, going to work and helping build things is actually really helpful, because it's a break in its own way, even though it's another thing on my schedule.
I like, Emma, how you talked about how they're all related to your majors and things you do, because there are so many opportunities. You can find anything related to anything you want to do. So I knew that going into teaching, I'd be working with people a lot. So being an RA made sense. And being a tour guide, kind of showing people things and learning information and being able to present to a group. And then working in the music office goes towards being a music educator and being familiar with, like, how to sort music in my own life, things like that. So with all of the activities and things, I've always tried to be really intentional with how is it kind of contributing contributing to my overall goals, and how can I kind of maybe do two birds with one stone, and that I can professionally develop in a musical sense and also get paid for it, which is awesome as well.
Sorry, the fire alarms in my apartment were just going off, so I didn't want to start talking and have you hear that, but it's all good. My apartment is not on fire. I think someone probably just burned popcorn, which does happen sometimes. But I think kind of the note of using your GCal and scheduling in time to like spend time with people who fill your cup, or to do things that kind of rejuvenate you. Sometimes I need to remind myself to block that out on my calendar so that I don't fill it up with other things. But it's helpful because if you have one kind of central coordinating system where everything goes into my GCal, then that's also where I can put like, okay, I'm going to make sure I block out, you know, a full 30 minutes even to eat lunch and to like read a book while I'm eating. That's kind of helpful on top of just the logistics of making it all work.
Like you said, find people that fill your cup is so important with trying to get energy going and whatnot. Moving forward, y'all are involved in all the things. How easy or how hard is it to get involved in all the things? Do you find getting involved on campus, you had to go hunt things down, or was it pretty easy to find resources to get involved and pursue the things you really want to be a part of?
My immediate reaction is at times it's too easy. Sometimes you'll talk to PLU students and how like we have a lot of different things going on because there are a lot of great opportunities and a lot of cool stuff going on. With that, I mean, if you're looking for jobs, it's pretty quick to look at, like, we have the Alumni and Student Connections Office that also does employment with career connections, what it used to be. It's now been absorbed. And then from there, just asking people. A lot of it is a lot of just like reaching out directly to folks. I mean, I vividly remember my first year, I had done like orientation stuff in high school, and so I was like, oh, like being a college tour guide, like maybe would make a little bit of sense. And then one of my now friends, Cecilia, who lived on my floor at the time, our first year, I saw her walking around with one of the yellow fanny packs, and I was like, I have a question for you. How did that happen? And so kind of what's nice with the smaller community aspect of PLU is that if there are things that you want to get involved in, you just have to ask someone. And oftentimes they're like very happy to connect you with someone who knows more about it.
Yeah. Sorry, Emma. I think it's easy to get involved. There's opportunities, especially in the fall when new students are coming in. Like, people want to involve you. There'll be engagement fairs. There'll be people recruiting and reaching out. I think for me, the hardest part of getting involved at PLU is that like no one's going to put it on your schedule for you usually. Like, you have to take the first step. You have to talk to someone. You have to email them. You have to show up to the first meeting. And from there, it ends up being really easy. You just kind of get carried along. It's a really great community. But I think the most important part and the hardest part is like saying, I'm interested in that and I'm going to go start doing it.
One thing that you'll notice around campus is there's posters everywhere. You enter any building, you will see posters for just about every club and organization that we have. And so one of the main things is looking at those. Honestly, it'll tell you where, when, who, what, all of that. And you kind of just show up. I personally got involved because I saw Trevor on a panel and had mentioned something about music arts. And I was like, cool, I want to do that. So even right now, like, you're sitting here listening to us talk, there are so many things that you can look at. Social media, we are crazy with our social media, especially within our Residence Hall Association. They post a lot about it. Campus Life posts a lot about it. You look at PLU on Instagram, all of our names will pop up for the different organizations. And so that is another way to kind of get involved. And yeah, like we said, just talk to people. If you decide to live on campus, that's also the great way. Everything kind of gets like thrown out there during like your first couple of days here. So it's an easy way to connect as well.
I think that for me, it's kind of a process of what I needed and what I was interested in too. You know, I'm one big hat that I wear right now is being an RHA director, and that kind of stemmed from living in a residence hall and being involved in events for our learning communities, and then wanting to be on what was then our residence hall council, and so having some control over what sort of events are going on, and then now I'm a director, and so I get to make decisions for all of campus. And similarly, you know, I'm forgot to mention this earlier, but I'm from out of state. I'm originally from the Austin area of Texas, so I can't really go home on the weekends. So getting to see the opportunities to go check out the rest of Washington through outdoor rec, I started becoming involved by attending trips and then saying, I want to be a leader in this. And so things kind of happen gradually over time as you start to recognize what you need or what you're interested in. And a lot of our like affinity group clubs as well, that's the case. And so I think that's really cool, like as you kind of enter in your first year and just try to see what might make your experience the most valuable and what will help you thrive. And then over time, perhaps that's a place in which you want to have a leadership role and maybe not. It's kind of one of those things that I think happens over time, but that initial foot in the door of trying to get involved in your first year, I think mainly stems from, what am I missing right now? What's going to make my life more fulfilled? And then pursuing that.
Kind of going off of that is also like, don't be afraid to get involved with stuff. I know specifically with outdoor rec, we have been trying, this was our first year, we've done it in a while, trying to do new student orientation events. For this last year, we led a hike with a bunch of first year students. And from that, we actually got a trip leader who he's actually had a really successful time. He applied after going on another outdoor rec trip, and he's now trip leader and he really likes it. But he wouldn't have been able to do that unless he took the initiative of like getting involved and going on that first outdoor rec trip. So kind of as you see the opportunities, see things that might be interesting to you, dive in head first, go for it. Like with outdoor rec trips, we send emails weekly about the events that we're doing. If something sounds fun and you're even like think that it might be kind of fun, get a friend and just tag along and do it. Because you might end up finding something that like changes your whole college experience.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. So to take things a little bit away from involvement, talk about the other part of your schedules, the classwork and whatnot. Is the workload really any different from high school, like college? Like you still have homework and tests, right? Like it's all pretty similar to high school, or is it just radically different? How would you compare doing, you know, your classwork or homework at PLU compared to high school?
I would say as someone who's a little more fresh out of high school, it's my second year here. The workload to me seems a little lighter than it was in high school. In high school, you have like homework 24/7. There's always something going on. And when you're here, it kind of just depends on how your professor wants to lead it. I personally, as a history major, have a lot of history-based homework, but then when it comes to like my gen ed classes, like my math and my sciences and stuff, I don't really have homework because we do a lot of in-class work. And so it kind of just, when you're scheduling for classes, look up like Rate My Professor, and it'll tell you like the workload a lot. I definitely count on that a lot, and it's pretty truthful for certain professors. And so, I mean, it just kind of take a look at that before you schedule yourself to understand how much workload you'll be having.
I think if I were to measure minutes in a day, it probably is more, but it's different because it's exactly what I want to do. And I know, like, at least for music, a lot of it is like practice and like skill development. So kind of depending on your area of study, things are going to be a little different. Like I don't write many essays. I have like for like some of my religion classes, or maybe some of my like there's a ecofeminism course that I took that was really fun. But it kind of depends on the medium. So while I may spend more minutes like in the practice room or listening to music and analyzing it, like it's the stuff that I'm like very intent and focused on. And like as someone who like can write an essay but doesn't love it, I'm glad I'm not a humanities major because there's a lot. Versus like maybe you're doing more like problems and solving things if you're more kind of in the STEM area or labs, things like that. It just depends on kind of your medium, which is so cool, is that like you and the person next to you could be like having wildly different experiences, but you're all working towards a common goal of your degree, and the various work that it takes to get there.
I think for me, it's not as much about like the quantity of work, because it varies, especially like department to department, depending on your professor. But I think even if the amount of work isn't that different, it's how it's structured, because a lot of it's more self-sufficient isn't the word that I want, but it's the word I'm going to use. Self-directed, because it's okay, you've got this reading, it needs to be done by next week. And you have to be a little bit more accountable than at least I found myself needing to be in high school. I think it's a little bit less structured in terms of deadlines and exactly what you need to have done on this day. Which isn't to say like your professor won't throw you in the deep end and say, okay, turn in a 5-page essay by this day and then never bring it up again. There's usually deadlines in between, but it is a little bit more self-driven.
Kind of going off of what everybody else has said, that I don't think the workload necessarily changes. Granted, I was in college like high school for a while ago. I've been in college for a bit now. I don't think the workload changes. It's really more of like you have to balance everything a lot more. Like you have to self-motivate for stuff a lot more, which can be really hard if you don't know how to do that. I didn't know how to do that in high school. And then you have to be able to manage like things like friends, going to clubs, hanging out on the weekends, but also doing homework. I would just say that kind of like you have to become more self-motivated. It's not really that like the workload's harder, it's that you have to motivate yourself, which is harder.
Yeah, and I think just kind of going off of what Trevor said specifically, like that idea of you're choosing what you want to study, and you have choices even with requirements like gen eds. You have so many options for how to fill specific credits, so that there's more of like a vested interest of like, I've chosen to be in this class and like I'm interested in this topic. I think that it makes the why behind like homework and assignments a lot stronger. And so there's a lot less busy work, I would say, generally. Surely that changes, professor to professor, but because you get to choose what classes you're taking and what your majors are and your minors and your programs and all of that, I think that I find myself less often being like frustrated with like, oh, I don't really want to do this, but like I have to do it. Instead, it's like, okay, this is difficult, but in the end, it's worth it, and it's something I'm still interested in. And then at least for me, there are times when I hit certain assignments, I'm like, I am so passionate about this topic that I could write about this for years. I could read about this all the time. And maybe the next week I'll have a different opinion, but I didn't feel like in high school I had that same moment of like, please, please let us talk about this random topic. It's just like, oh, I have to do it.
Continue. We're going to continue backtracking a little bit. What's something you wish you would have known before going to college, just in general? It doesn't necessarily have to be PLU specific. Just what's the thing that high school you wish you could have told high school you to either chill out about or prepare for in terms of getting ready for college?
Don't be afraid to get involved. Just like if anything sounds interesting, just go do it. Like you don't have to have a friend to go with you. You can just go do it by yourself. But like get involved like with the things that really like make you you. You don't have to do things that like you don't find fun anymore. Like I think a lot of times in high school we get kind of like shoved into doing things that we don't want to do, like typing classes or something that might not be your vibe, where you can kind of just like make your own path in college, which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah, I think. Oh,
Go, Ellie.
sorry,
Ellie,
Trevor.
go.
Okay. I think just kind of bouncing off of that, learning to be okay with changing your mind is, I mean, easier said than done, but I think I don't think there's anybody on this panel who hasn't changed a major or a minor at some point, or gone to a few sessions for a club and then decided maybe this isn't it, or had a job and then said, I think next year I don't need to have this anymore. Kind of like what Erin was saying in high school. Totally, I'd be like, well, I guess I need to do this for the next 4 years because I tried it for 1 week. But kind of being okay with changing your mind and that being like, awesome, I'm learning new things about myself and that's okay.
I have two. One is quick and silly, one's deeper. Quick and silly is that schedule sending exists on emails. Oh my gosh, I love it so much. If you don't know what schedule sending is, I urge you to explore the little arrow next to send on Gmail. But the more deeper one is that nothing, like I had this vision going into college and into adulthood of like everything was going to be very, very stuffy, very like I just watched Legally Blonde, like it's one of my favorite movies, but like there's a whole scene where they're all around the table and they're like, should we admit this person, la, la, la. And like this image that all these professors are just like judging everybody. It's so not stuffy at all. Everybody wants you, at least at PLU, everybody wants you to be successful and welcome you into their community. And even professors, like they are open and willing to help you and engage with you and want to like they understand that like the people that they're teaching are the people that eventually are going to take the helm of the field that they work in, and so they like want to be as helpful as possible with these things and invite you to engage with them and others. And overall, like there's not, and this isn't PLU, which is why I love PLU. Like, there's not a single person who's like, I'm planning to cut like 10 people from this, and that's just how it goes. Like there's such a culture of wanting people to succeed and be engaged and be in community with that. That like it dispelled all like fears I had of like the professors and the doctors everywhere. Like there are some professors who are like, don't call me that, like that's too official for me, just call me like so there's kind of that interesting like dichotomy happening. But yeah, it's not as stuffy as you may imagine.
Oh, sorry. I kind of have two things. One is kind of just in general, when you're packing for college, make sure you buy hangers. Okay, that is like the number one thing. All of my friends just didn't buy hangers. Luckily, there's a Target that's like 10 minutes from campus. Target's our best friend right now. We love it. Second thing, don't be afraid to ask for help. Rather if it's with your classes, rather if it is just like you need someone to talk to. We have so many resources on campus. We have our counseling center, which is great with like mental health. We have our campus security, also known as Campo, which is great for just like if you're walking from lower campus to upper campus at night and you feel unsafe. I've called them before and be like, I just need someone to walk me there. Like this, I just need help. Just literally asking for help. Your professors are more than willing to help. They have their office hours, which are always open. They will give you that like that first day of school during your syllabus time. But asking for help has definitely been, I was like in high school, I can ask for help. And then my mindset was like college, I'm an adult now, I need to do everything by myself. It's not the case. You're one person. College is something very big, something very new, and don't be afraid to ask for help and find your people.
Had the same one. Yeah, asking for help, reaching out, like your professors want you to succeed, whether you're in their field or taking it for gen ed, like they're all really nice. They all want you to do well in their class. And that's something that even if I told high school me, if I could go back in time and tell high school me, I don't know if I'd listen. But it took me a while to learn, both asking professors and then also like upperclassmen on the rowing team when I joined, asking, hey, what's up with this? I don't know what's happening. Like, can you help me? And people are totally willing to help, and you just have to ask. But that's a hard skill to learn sometimes.
Excellent. Gonna bounce off Emma's answer a little bit here. As you're getting ready for PLU, what's one thing you recommend students get before starting college? Be it a dorm room item or a classroom item, what's a thing you can't live without in your college experience that is absolutely a must-have, be it, hangers or using GCal all the time or all the other things you could potentially need to get by?
brand doesn't matter. Mine is a Hydro Flask, but a water bottle with a straw attachment. If you think that you're going to take the time when you're in class to tip your bottle back or anything else, you're not. You're not, but you know what you are going to do? You're going to sit there with your straw like in your mouth and you're going to mindlessly drink water all day. And then boom, you're the most hydrated you're ever going to be in your life. So, bring a water bottle, make sure it has a straw lid, life-changing.
Either a waterproof backpack or like a really good raincoat. Like those are probably kind of go hand in hand. Because we live in the Pacific Northwest, so it rains a lot, and those will help you on the days that it is a little extra rainy.
Um, oh, go ahead, Allison.
For me, I am a deep sleeper and I need to have a way that I know I will wake up and wake myself up. Especially, I do rowing, we have morning practices sometimes. Like, I set alarms on my phone, but I've recently also I'm actually using it for my light right now, one of the alarms that like lights up. And knowing myself and knowing how to get myself out of bed is really helpful. 8 a.m.s, practices, whatever you might have. You'll have a roommate probably who might say, hey, your alarm's going off. Can you turn that off? But at some point, there's no one to like get you on the bus either. So
I would say my two top things right now, a really good blanket, rather if it's one that you can take everywhere or one that specifically stays on your bed, because your dorm will get extremely cold out of nowhere. And sometimes the heaters are a little janky, so they're sketch sometimes. And a fan, because if it's not freezing in your room, it is so hot where your window is wide open. I currently have like 20 blankets, and then I have a fan that sits in my window. Those would be like my top two things, of course, other than the hangers, because you really want those. But those would be my top two because I cannot live without them. I bring my blanket everywhere. If I'm traveling to a friend's dorm, the blanket's with me. My fan gets brought out into like our lobby area because it gets hot out there also. So definitely fans and blankets are like your number one priority for me.
I would say shower shoes and a shower caddy, because shower shoes, please do not use communal showers without shower shoes. Just don't do it. Regrets for everyone. But also, like, if you're walking from your dorm room to the shower and like holding all of your like shampoo and soap and stuff, it's just embarrassing. It's like if you drop something as you're like walking down the hallway and it's inconvenient. So just like getting a shower caddy and shower shoes, especially because after you move in, it's like, you spend all this time lugging your stuff around and moving it around, and then you're like, okay, I want to shower to feel refreshed. I'm in a new place. You want that good first shower experience to be, top tier.
I realized we all said things that were like within our dorms, but for classes, I personally would say either multicolored pens or like mechanical pencils, because I know I personally have to do a lot of writing in class. And if I'm not using my iPad and I like have to use paper, I don't want to have to like resharpen a pencil all the time. So my mechanical pencils are like a godsend. They are with me everywhere I go. Also a stapler. You will have to print out so much things most of the time for any of your writing classes. Stapling it together is amazing rather than trying to like awkwardly like dog ear the corners.
Yeah, dog earring is the worst. 10 out of 10. Would not recommend. Anyway, moving forward, we're getting close to the end. Please remember, for those of you following at home, if you have questions, please feel free, throw them in the chat, throw them in the Q&A. We'd love to see what y'all are curious to know. But as we're getting closer to the end of this, what was that transition from high school like, or from high school to college like for each of you? Again, I know a lot of you are, fifth years, but all the same, what was that transition like for each of you? Just in your own experiences.
I think for me, it's pretty daunting. I, was moving across the country to an area that was very unfamiliar. I have older siblings who went to college before me, which was great. I got to kind of ask them some questions just to be prepped. So I'm really thankful for that. But otherwise, I was just pretty freaked out, and there was like nobody else really from my high school that I grew up with, so it was just kind of all new. And I think that transition of finding like my orientation group were also people that I lived with. In my first year, we were in the same like learning community in the dorm that we were all living in. So all of those kind of peers and components together gave me kind of like a built-in community to have people to go to dinner with every day. And I joined the rowing team and was a part of that for my first year, and met a lot of folks that, you know, gave me the opportunity to meet upperclassmen and people who are in the same grade as me. The other ways that I started to get involved did kind of that work for me also, is you show up to a club session and there's a senior who's willing to talk to me about their first year experience, and a first year who's going through it alongside me. I think that was kind of what helped ease my transition. And then realizing that the people that you first meet might be some of your best friends for life, and they also might be the people that you need for your first year. And then you explore new things, and that can be really, really cool. Having been here for 5 years, I have a couple friends who were in my orientation group. We were super close first year. We all kind of studied away, did different experiences, fell out of touch a little bit, and now are getting in touch again, and are still super close and have this kind of foundational relationship with no tension between us for, you know, going and exploring new things and having different pathways. So the people are going to, at least in my experience, are probably going to help that transition the most. And getting involved is going to be one of the easiest ways to make that happen for you.
I would definitely say that like the first semester is probably going to be the hardest. But that's just because it's a transitionary period. Like Ellie said, like it's scary, it's new, you don't have your people yet, you don't have your support system, but everybody's kind of in that same kind of limbo land, and everybody's gone through it. I don't know a single upperclassman in my first year and first semester didn't help me and offer support. And I know that as an upperclassman, I am very willing to offer support and help out all the first years if they have any questions about like, what's going on? How do I do this? Where is this at? Which like, yes, there's a lot of ambiguity. It's very scary your first semester, but PLU is also very helpful. Everybody here is willing to help you and support you. And it kind of makes that change a lot easier.
I'd say I kind of had quite a bit of an opposite experience than Ellie did, because I live like 5 minutes from campus, and my high school is within the district of 253. So we all kind of came together. But the one thing that I would say is kind of the difference is you're leaving your parents, you're leaving your guardians, the people that you live with and that like help you through life on the daily. You're kind of just, it's kind of this time where you're like, okay, I need to move on, and they need to like, they're going to help support me, or we have people to support me to help move on. And I think that's the one thing that kind of like, it'll hit you. That first weekend, it doesn't quite hit yet because it's still orientation. So you're with a big group of people, you're doing something every day of the week just to kind of like get your way around campus. And then you kind of hit classes and you're like, okay, now I have to do this by myself. I have to remember to eat. I have to remember that, okay, this is when I'm going to shower. This is when practice is and stuff like that. So just the transfer of time management, and not relying on the people around you, but finding those new people to rely on is kind of like where my biggest like efforts came into. I started relying on the roommate that I had. We relied on each other to make sure we were up for class because we had class at the same time. And so it's just kind of finding like those people that if you know you're like your best friend that you came to campus with has class at the same time, call each other. Be like, are you up for class? Okay, make sure like you can find someone to be reliable with, your accountability partner. And then also you'll be put into a Lute group, and your Lute guide, which I was a Lute guide this year. If you ever have those questions, you can always ask them. I know it was my first year as a Lute guide, so Ellie was my question person to go to. So we had a lot of that. And so just kind of finding like those upperclassmen that you're like, I really don't know where this building is or what time I'm supposed to be this place at. It's just upperclassmen here are a lot nicer than they were in high school. It's everybody kind of blends together, whereas in high school you're like, oh, I can tell you're a senior or something like that. It just makes life a lot easier. So use your upperclassmen.
I like what Emma touched on, that like it is all up to you, and like that's equally the most like scary but also freeing part of it all. Is that like it's almost 100. There are always pressures and things that affect us externally, but generally it is all on you. So like Emma said, like you have to be like, oh, now it's dinner time. Oh, today's the day I have to do laundry because I have no clothes left. Like things like that. Like that all, the like life of it all, because it's not just classes, it's like living your life and the things that take time. Like going, like the other day my tire pressure turned on. I was like, oh, I guess I gotta go like to the air machine at the gas station. Like just like the life things that happen as you like have adult responsibilities like continue to happen. One thing I wanted to kind of highlight is that there is find comfort in the fact that there is no like right way to do it. There is only your way. I don't think my transition, like I transition, I'm not won't pretend like it wasn't hard like everyone else's, but I don't think it could have gone any better considering like the ways that I've grown and the like lessons I learned and things like that. But know that there is no right way, there's only your way, and you're becoming like your truest self. And then kind of in that same way, like especially if you're coming to school and not as a transfer student but as a first year student, first year in college, everyone around you is also on their third day of school when it's the third day of school and everything feels like it's crumbling around you. So you are not like, you're not alone in your experience, and everyone is just doing their best. And so it's good to find that community when things feel weird or tough, and know that like your roommate who's also a first year like also has never done midterms before, so let's figure this out together, and kind of find some comfort in that.
Yeah, I think everything everyone said pretty much covers it. I weirdly don't feel like my transition was that hard. It was a big change. A lot of stuff was really different, but I wasn't struggling with it. And I think one of the really big things with that is that I immediately found a community on campus. And it's not necessarily people I've stayed in touch with super well, not people who like I immediately bonded with for life, but like having a group of people at that time. My RA was great. So our whole hall kind of came together. It was a really nice feeling to have like, oh, do you want to go to dinner? Do you want to like have that community right then? I also think like I got really lucky. I was far enough away from home that I wasn't going home every weekend. I was experiencing campus life, but I still was able to go home sometimes and see my family. Obviously, if you're out of state, much different, but for me, that was really helpful in my transition.
Excellent. So you all picked PLU clearly because you're on this panel for us. Well, what's one thing that surprised you about PLU once you got here as a student?
I was surprised at how easy it was to do different things. In high school, I was intending environmental studies as a major, which I still have. I just have more. And I was convinced like, oh, I'm doing like a STEM area major. I'm never going to be able to be involved in the arts or anything. I was wrong on 2 counts. One, environmental studies is interdisciplinary. I've taken literature courses, I've taken ethics, I'm taking anthropology for it. It wasn't just STEM. But also like, I've been able to still be involved in theater, even though I've never taken a theater class here. Like, there's lots of ways to stay involved in things that you're passionate about, even if they're not something you want to make your academic pathway and eventually your career, which surprised me in a really good way.
Go ahead, Trevor.
Yeah, we both unmuted at the same time, we noticed. I think that one of the biggest lessons is that like prestige does not equal exclusivity. And by that I mean like you can do really high level work and like have high expectations, and people can have high expectations of you without it being like an exclusive and like pyramid type environment. which especially like coming in the arts and in music, like there you hear plenty of stories of how it can be that way, but it doesn't have to be. And that was such a like eye-opening thing, is that I can do the same level of work and be in the same level of choirs as various other institutions, but not have that same reputation of like terror and people being cut and things like that, with the idea that you can do all those things while still being in community and caring about one another.
I'd say the one thing that like surprised me the most was how easy it is to change your major and your minors. Because we all come in and we're like, or most of us will come in and we're like, okay, I want to do this. I came in as a music education major and was like, this is what I will do for the rest of my life. I am so ready to do it. Got to classes and I'm like, this is not me. Like, I love to sing, I love my music, but just the technical side was just not for me. So then you go into your counselor and you're like, is it possible to do this? Like, I declared my music major pretty early on. So I was like, okay, now I gotta try and backtrack everything. You literally just go in, you say the magic word, I want to change, and then it happens. It's not this big pressure that is put on you that you're like, okay, I really have to do this. And you can be undecided for a pretty long time before having to fully figure out what it is, because you can just complete your gen eds up until like once you're done with those, you kind of got to figure out a direction to go. But yeah, the fact that switching my major only took like 2 seconds, I'd say was the biggest shock to me, because everybody talks about, oh my gosh, you have to know your major. Like, this is what you're going to do the rest of your life. Are you sure you want to do it? And then it's like, no, I want to change my mind. And changing your mind is okay, especially in college. This is for like, this is your thing. Be sure it's something you want to do and something you love rather than something that people want you to do. This is for you. This isn't for other people.
I think I'm always just surprised at how like flexible and accommodating everybody at PLU is. Um, and like friendly and nice about everything too. Like I've had professors who have had like weird medical things pop up or like weird family stuff pop up, and like, they're just like, okay, yeah, no problem, get it to me when you can. Where I didn't ever really experience that in high school at all. Um, and like inclusive as well. There isn't a single person that I haven't met who's been like, hey, you want to come do this? Or like, hey, you should try this. Especially when it comes to like new things around PLU. Um, like when I first got involved with Ultimate Frisbee, I had not touched a disc ever, I don't think. And my sophomore year, one of my friends was just like, hey, come to practice. And I did, and here I am 4 years later, and I still play. So just kind of like PLU is just like accommodating, flexible, nice. It's been a great environment.
Yeah, I think something that like I kind of expected coming into PLU is I was really interested in like studying away and the options that were there. And I knew everything kind of on paper about like how it worked, but then once I actually got the opportunity to do it, it was surprising to me like how easy it was to figure out the logistics of studying away and how my scholarships and my financial aid went with me and like how that actually happened. It wasn't just like something that was advertised. And so then in those specific experiences of getting to study away, it was the surprise of this is the most financially feasible way for me to live in another place for 4 months of my life with a purpose and with still getting all my same credits and getting to have internship opportunities, like volunteer hours, things that really shaped who I am today and what I want to continue studying and what I want to do. So I think beyond study away, it's kind of like the things that you see on paper of like saying, oh, like we're inclusive, but then once you feel it, it's different. Or, oh, everybody seems pretty nice. And then once you have that experience of a professor saying like, is there anything I can do for you? Like legitimately, please let me know if there's any way I can support you as you navigate whatever's going on in your life. Those kind of moments I think they're always surprising to me in really wonderful ways of kind of being like, there is an authenticity there of like those words mean something in practice.
I wanted to add one thing. Emma mentioned gen eds and it triggered a thought in me. I was coming into PLU, I was like, okay, great, gen eds. I have to take a bunch of random classes that don't relate to what I want to do. I ended up really enjoying gen eds, and I think what I found surprising was how important I found them. I have more knowledge across this spectrum of like, sure, I don't know that much about this topic, but I've taken a basic intro class. I know what people are talking about now. If you had told freshman me I would have ended up as a religion major, I would not have believed you. But I had to take those classes for gen eds, and I found out that they're actually really interesting, and I was really excited about learning more, and now I have a major in it. So
I just have one more thing to add. PLU is known as a Lutheran school, and I think one thing that definitely surprised me coming here is that the Lutheran aspect is if you want it, not that it's like required. Yes, religion classes are required, but there's so many different types and like aspects of religion that you can go through. And then like finding your way through it and kind of understanding what you identify with is something that PLU is really great at, because it's a very widespread. Jen Rude, our pastor, is great, very accepting of anybody and everybody. And then we also have InterVarsity, which is a Bible study group that is on campus that is kind of focuses on the group aspect of working through the Bible rather than making you do like all of these one-on-one things that like religion is often stereotyped as. And so being able to attend a school where I can question my religion, but also be accepting of my questions is something that was super great. And I know a lot of people tend to get pushed away when religion is talked about within schooling, but understanding that PLU isn't just here because you're Lutheran. A lot of students don't even identify as Lutheran on this campus, but it's just a way to explore religion in a different mindset.
Excellent. All right. We only have a couple more minutes, so unfortunately, I don't think we'll get to any questions that end up in chat or Q&A at this point. However, one last question for each of you. This is kind of going to be rapid fire. You don't get an explanation for this answer. It's just going to be a one-word answer. And that is, how would you describe the student population on campus at PLU? A lot of people say we have a certain vibe here on campus. What is that vibe to you? Just a one-word answer, no explanation.
Engaged.
passionate.
Slay.
Caring.
Astronomical.
Excellent. Thank you so much to each of our volunteers tonight. Y'all are wonderful. I appreciate you all a lot. For those of you who tuned in tonight, we are going to be having a similar parent panel in the spring. So be on the lookout for that so you can hear from some PLU parents about why they chose PLU and why they love our community. So with that, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Jordan, for being in the background. Thank you to each of our 5 wonderful Lutes. And thank you for everyone who tuned in. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your night.